Hey guys, this is Dan Williams from Ranger Motion and Ranger Motion Business Mentoring. And I just wanted to shoot a bit of a video to take you through our new facility here in Perth. Over the last 15 years, we're in our 15th year now at Ranger Motion. We have set up 5 or 6 different facilities of various sizes for various uses, and we've learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes over that time. So I thought maybe we would just shoot a bit of a video to take you through some of the things that you may not normally think about when setting up a facility, so hopefully you guys won't make some of those same mistakes. So basically, I'll talk you through almost in a chronological way. So basically when our clients come into Ranger Motion, there's a certain narrative, there's a certain story. And we realize that although the experience, the product that we're selling at Ranger Motion is that overall experience, that there is a micro experience as well. So aside from the macro, the overall service, the experience that our clients are getting, there's a micro, and that's the session when they come in. Now, we're basically set up as much more individualized, a bit sort of boutique. So we have 156 clients who train here. Each has their own personal coach who they see at least once a week for a one-on-one session. Everyone is programmed for individually. They have the option to come in outside that one-on-one session. But just to give you some context of what our basic service offering is. So if we take you through, this is the entrance here. So if we go along the lines of that sort of narrative that we have, where people come in, we've actually designed our layout around that experience or around that client journey as they come through. So basically they will come in into this sort of chill out area, straight in, they can get changed, toilets in here. Main things of note here, this is full disabled access, showers available. Couple of little sort of key moments or points of difference here. We have available for client use, things like hair ties, feminine hygiene products for the ladies, deodorant and that sort of thing. So people will come in, they get changed, that's the first sort of port of call, and then they can put their stuff in the shelves here. So storage space. So nothing is stored beyond this point. It keeps everything nice and clean and tidy. The only thing that goes beyond this point would be the things that people are using to train, water bottles, that sort of stuff. We come now, so this is our sort of kitchenette sort of area. So you can see kitchen here, little fridge with some products, fridge there for staff, microwave. The side of the display fridge here, you can see we have free Wi-Fi available to everyone. A little board where people can write down what's happening in their lives so we can share that with other members of our community, just a bit of a culture play there. Our fridge, we stock cold brew coffee, Fit Aid, water in cartons as opposed to in plastic bottles, which people like, pre-made meals, and all of this is basically can be purchased. We use Square as the app here, so you can see people can purchase those products and just using the Square reader there. It's about 30 or 40 bucks. So as long as you have an iPad to run that off, all good. That iPad is also hooked up wirelessly to 2 big 600 watt speakers we have. So everything is controlled from that iPad there. Now you'll see our main sort of front area here, if we spin this around. So this has been designed to basically get people to stay longer, hence the meals in the fridge. This has been designed to make people want to stay here. If we can make people stay 5 or 10 minutes longer than they ordinarily would, there's an opportunity there for them to meet someone new, to form a relationship, to make some friends, which of course is all great for client retention, but it's also important to just create just a good culture and a good feeling environment, because in the end, that's all we're trying to do. You'll see the flooring here. These are basically self-adhesive laminate flooring planks, which are just from Bunnings. Super easy to lay down because they're self-adhesive. You just peel the backing off and it's a sticker. The only thing you need to do is just make sure that the floor is primed first. This was just a concrete floor. You can see tables here, some more products for sale here, protein balls, that sort of thing. We have a little consult area in here, more of a private consult area there. A glass board. We've chosen to go with glass boards as opposed to whiteboards, and you'll see these around the facility. Nice and clean, they're borderless, very easy to keep clean. They don't have that ghosting that you sometimes get with whiteboards. So you'll see we've got those in various sizes around the place here. Super clean, easy to do. This is a console room that we had built. So we work very closely with the team from 4Motion Physio. And you can basically see in here, there is a treatment room, treatment area. We've had aircon and everything installed in here. So we do work closely, as I said, with the team from 4Motion Physio. So great to have them as an addition to what we do. Very, very important, our core values, 6 core values. These help to drive our culture and basically form the basis of everything we do. This is the range of motion model of health, which is a concept we put together about a decade and a half ago, still rings true to this day. This is basically range of motion in a nutshell. So if we have new clients coming in, we'll sit down at one of the tables with them here and we always talk them through this range of motion model of health. This is one of our sort of favorite areas of the whole place, which is a bit of a stand-up workstation, bar height, tables and benches here. A lot of people will sit here doing some work, having a meal and looking out at what's going on in the rest of the facility. So you can see heaps of greenery in this front area. We really wanted that. It's all artificial, of course, just to keep it easy to maintain, but just little spots of green. We have things like a fruit bowl here, which people can help themselves to. Charging station here, so we have wireless phone chargers and obviously charging available for laptops, etc. here. Anytime we've got cabling running around, we've used conduits just to keep things nice and clean. You'll see the fencing that we have running around here we got from Aussie Fencing. It's basically just pool fencing. It's about, I think it's 1.2 meters high, which is sort of a great height for leaning on for people to look out. What this does is helps to designate this as the chill out area where you're not sweating and lying around, but a little bit more formal, almost like a cafe style space is what we've tried to do here. And then also helps to keep the kids in here. We've got bean bags and stuff for the kids and colouring books and toys and books for them to read and stuff there. Okay, so if we continue with this micro journey, this chronological client journey, in the front, they come through this gate and this basically takes us into where people do their pre and post exercise routines, all the mobility and stability work in here. Obviously a treatment table, which we have available for the personal coaches to use. So this is basically just 16 mil thick interlocking jigsaw foam, which is the same thickness as the black rubber tiles that we use, which is great. It means that there's no step here. This is all nice and even and nice and flush, so there's no trip hazard there. People will come in, so once they've come in, they've got change, they've put their bags in the lockers, they've said hi to some people. This is basically our session flow. So this is how we've designed the process by which our clients will work through their session at Range of Motion. So if we just look at that again, basically they come in and this guides them through everything they do, from pre-exercise dynamic-based movements through pre-mobility, activation, building to their working weights, planning the intent or the goals of that session, training, then their recovery work, a debrief, and stabilization and post-mobility work. Now again, because we program individually for everyone who comes in, this will be different for everyone. So basically, as soon as they come into this area, the clients will grab one of these cards. These are steel cards here. They can also write their sessions on the back, as you can see. Steel cards, they grab one of the whiteboard markers, and the individual programming that we provide them will basically tell them which of these columns, which of these different movement types are involved in the session that they are doing for that day. So you can see some of the movement types here, some of the columns, a squat, a setup as if you're setting up for a deadlift, lockout position, handstand and rack positions, overhead, pushing out, pushing down. So a whole range of different movements, which basically allows us to individualize what we're doing. You can see behind me here, we have another glass board available for our personal coaches to identify specifically which exercises they would like their clients doing as a pre and post work. Another thing on this card, basically there is the option here to identify the major movement faults that we see in our clients and whether they need to improve their stability to fix that fault or whether they need to improve their mobility. And then this chart will tell them everything they need to know to know which exercises to fix that. We then have a QR code which they can scan with their phone, which takes them to a video of all of these. So there's a video demo of the 83 different pre and post exercise, activation, stability, and mobilization drills. You can see behind me on the wall here, this has just gone up, so there's nothing on it yet, but this is our goal setting board, our photo board there of all of our clients. So people can come in, everyone knows each other's name. In terms of some of the equipment that we have for mobilization work, you can see a place for everything, nice and clean. We've basically just used those sort of orange hooks you get from Bunnings, which you see everywhere. Obviously a little bit of planning and design went into getting everything in the right place, but it just keeps it all nice and clean. Wherever possible, and this is a real key point, we've tried to store everything off the ground, because if we're storing things off the ground, it means that we're able to keep things clean. A lot of thought went into how can we not have too much dust around? How can we make it really easy for the cleaners to get around to the edges? Because that's something that we've noticed has been a problem a lot in the past. Antibacterial wipes and stuff here that people have access to. A bit of a sign, just another indication of some of our culture and our core values. Just a sign to say, have a look around. Is there anyone you don't know? Go and introduce yourself. That's about it for the main sort of pre and post exercise routine area. So once people have finished there, they'll come out onto the main floor and do whatever session it is that they have to do. So some stuff here, some real minor stuff. Firstly, the rig. We've always found it better to lay the flooring and then drill the rig through the flooring into the floor. There's no loss of stability. It means you don't have to sort of cut these little holes in the flooring, sit the rig inside it, which always looks a bit messy. It's a dust trap, and you tend to not get things lining up as you should, and it just looks a little inconsistent. Come around here, obviously some stuff does have to be on the floor. Some of the equipment, like the air bikes here, but we've got all the dip bars stored there. Skis are a great piece of equipment to have because they've got such a small footprint. This is a resource that we have available here to our clients, which basically allows them to take any movement that's been programmed for them in their individualized programming and modify that movement around injury. So although they have a personal coach to help them with that, it does empower them a little bit there. This is the second bathroom. This is a bathroom that we had built. This wasn't here before. All that was in here before was that first bathroom that we saw. So just nice and clean and simple, nice and minimal here. And hand dryer as opposed to hand towels. Again, a little thing like that, it just means that the bins don't fill up as quickly, easier to keep clean, less rubbish, less waste. Something that I want to show you guys, which is something that actually took a huge amount more planning and experimentation than you might believe. These yellow lines, which you can see behind me on the flooring. So basically in our old facility, I'll walk over here so you can see a little clearer all these yellow lines behind me. So we want to be able to designate areas where people can lift. We don't have any lifting platforms. It's something we've used in the past. They get dirty, they get messy, they splinter. People catch their feet on them, screws come up, adhesive comes undone. We really don't think it's necessary unless you are a specific Olympic weightlifting gym, which we're absolutely not. So in our old facility, we experimented with maybe 20 different ways of designating these 3 by 2 meter areas where people can train. And it allows us to fit a lot of people in a very small amount of space and not be in each other's way and keep everyone safe. So I spent about $200 on the most industrial, the strongest adhesive tape that you could buy so we could tape out these areas. It always came up, and I basically got a 1 square meter tile, put a strip of about 8 or 12 different types of tape, told people to lift on there. 2 months later, we would see which one was best, which one hadn't worn, and we would go with that. All of them had worn. So what we've used is this yellow beading. And all this yellow beading it's the stuff that you use to feed, see if I can pull some up here. It's the stuff that you use to feed cabling through a wall if you're wall mounting a flat screen TV, for example. And it's about $1 a meter. After we'd laid all the flooring, we basically just lay this yellow beading all the way around. Anywhere we wanted one of these lifting areas, easy done. And I think it looks great. It sits a couple of millimeters below the height of the of the flooring, of the rubber flooring. Looks good. In terms of the rubber flooring, we've just gone with 1 by 1 meter tiles. We haven't done them in the brick pattern. We'd find sometimes when we've done that in the past, they wouldn't line up too well. The other good thing that this yellow beading does is it actually helps to keep the flooring square and in place. The flooring's not shifting. It's not perfect. There's always a bit of give and a bit of expansion with heat, but works pretty well. All around the place we have these glass boards, again, because we have a very individualized approach to what we do, and every client who comes in during a day will follow a different program. Lots of small glass boards is more conducive with our business model than just having some big ones. That being said, we do have some big glass boards around, as you can see here. There are also some over there, which we're going to have a look at in a moment, but lots of small glass boards works really well. Wherever possible, we have wall mounted equipment. So you'll see the plates stored on the wall, nice and clean. Everyone knows where they go. Super easy to do. Even just things like which plate goes where. So the 10 kilo plates up the top, because they're the lightest, the 20s in the middle, so you don't have to bend forward too much to pick them up, and then the 15. Vertical bar storage here we found is better. It allows you to fit more bars in a smaller amount of space. In here, these are basically sort of safety bars, squat bars stored there. Now you can see again, we've used those orange Bunnings hooks there. And because we want a place for everything, keep it nice and neat, we've even done stuff like saying to people, putting little signs all over the place, hooks this way, so people know how to store equipment until people form the habit of where things go. That's just a really good strategy. I don't want to be the sort of place that writes up, these are the 10 rules of range of motion on the wall, but people appreciate how everything has its own space, so that works really well. Rowers over here, the rowers are normally stored up, but they can be brought down. You can see on the wall there behind the rowers, we have mats. Now I know a lot of you guys will use the blue. Let's have a look inside here. You can sort of see, in here the blue mats, which you get from Clark Rubber or somewhere. So what we've done is had these almost like pillowcases made for them, because they get really grubby and the corners and the edges of them rip up pretty quickly. So we've had these made so we can remove the pillowcases. They're just easily machine washable. Just a bit of a grommet in the corner so we can hang those. Again, it's pedantic, but it makes it look good. Eyelet, top left, so everything's hanging the right way. We have belts available for our clients to use, all here. If we have a look at how the rig is actually set up. So the rig is not exactly metric, but it's almost a meter between the uprights of a squat rack, for example. Now what this has allowed us to do is plan the layout of the entire facility based on that and the fact that this yellow beading fits in to make a nice lifting area. So for example, if we go over here, you can see immediately behind me, this is obviously a squat rack there. This is a rig that we designed quite thick steel, so not cheap, but it's lasted us really well. So you can see the squat rack, and then you can see the beading here, so you're lifting inside that area. And if we scroll down, that's where that lifting area ends, and there's another exercise space there. So just this side of the rig, even though we've only got 4.5 meters from the wall to the rig, we can actually fit 8 people lifting safely with barbells, with no fear of dropping them on themselves, no fear of having a bar behind you. We never let anyone lift if there's a bar within 2 meters of them, forward or back, just to keep things safe. On this wall, as we said, another glass board, range of motion record board with masters and juniors records as well, which is really cool. You'll notice the orange hooks high up on the wall here. That's how we scale handstand push-ups with bands. That's a story for another day. The setup of the rig itself, you can see pretty standard here. Nothing too crazy. You will notice, however, that we do have some bars set up low. So these are pull-up bars set up quite low here. Allows us to do a few things. Firstly, rings on them for things like push-ups, but secondly, and more importantly, it allows us to put a resistance band around the bar, and people can do push-ups with their chest through that. Nice, easy setup. It also means people can do jumping bar muscle ups without having to stand on a box. We also have a different method of scaling strict pull-ups as well, which uses that method. But again, that's one for another day. Other little things, chalk buckets. Here, you see the chalk bucket, standard steel bucket here. But what we've done is poured about 50 mil of a very fine concrete into the bottom of that. So basically it's very hard to kick them over. So they're very bottom heavy. There's a lot more stability there. Other stuff I'm thinking about as we're going around, the tiles aren't stuck down, but any tiles like around the rubber here in this sort of, where are we? In this sort of area here on each side of this blue foam, we stick those down just with no more nails, nice and simple. Again, you'll see over here, more stuff stored on the walls. Lots of resources. This is a weightlifting percentage chart, some charts for some of our work capacity testing. These are QR codes which our clients can scan for a range of little exercise improvement programs for skill and stamina development. This is all our bands set up for some of our powerlifting, accommodating resistance. So what sort of bands people should be using, how much resistance they add for our accommodating resistance work. Other stuff that I'm seeing as we walk around, we have a whole bunch of these all over the place, which people can slot their phones into for use as a timer, magnetic, or to film what they're doing. We also have some other versions of that, which we got in from the US. Gym Buddy, these are called, sort of like you'd see on a car dash. This is magnetic. We provide little steel plates that all our clients can stick on the back of their phones. And again, boom, stick on, they move around nice and easy. Let's look at the, okay, so we've got the achievement board here. Achievement board, again, is a cultural thing, PB, bell, little signs. All of our signage, this stuff here and all the signage and resources you've seen around the place is an aluminium composite. So we've gone through a couple of iterations for that. Things like core flute wear pretty quickly. Steel can bow a little bit, so that's all aluminium composite, which is basically a sheet of aluminium, like a composite, almost like a very high density foam in between, and then another sheet of aluminium. Not cheap, but that's sort of been our theme here. If we have the option of going with the easy option or the more difficult option, the cheap option or the more expensive option, we've tried to go with the more expensive quality option every time. Prowler track all the way down, which is about 20 meters long. Pretty simple that really, stuck down just with an artificial turf adhesive from Bunnings. About 4 litres got us that 20 square meters, which is pretty cool. You'll see the border or the edging of the Prowler track here. That's basically like an aluminium angle. So we cut that to the size we needed because we wanted a nice clean line here. Aesthetically, I think it looks really cool. But also it means that when someone is pushing the Prowler, if they skim into the edge of it, it's not going to take chunks out of the tiles. Just thinking longevity, how's things going to work well. So we just put a beading of no more nails across the angle of that aluminium elbow. Here we have our projector screen, which we can pull down. This is where we run a lot of our seminars and educational events. So you can basically see this is where the audience or the crowd would be sitting. We can project onto that screen, and there's a glass board each side for notes and stuff. Also, that'll be cool for movie nights, which we haven't had yet, but we'll be able to set the projector up there for movie nights and have surround sound with, like I mentioned, the 2 600-watt speakers, one of which is there, one of which is in this other corner here. They're Bluetooth. They weren't actually hugely expensive, super easy. They're up there on the wall. All the cabling is being hid by the conduits, so works really well. So at any point in this main sort of area, we want to have a squat rack where people can take the bar off the rack, and then another 2x3 meter lifting area right behind that. So if people are using 2 barbells, there's plenty of space. And you can see here what we've got: jerk blocks, which of course can also be used as a squat rack, and the yoke, which can also be used as a squat rack. And again, there is always the squat rack sort of area, and then an empty area in front of that, the empty 6 square meter area in front of that. If we bring it over here, ropes, this is the second of the 2 ropes we have. Ropes obviously attached up there. We do have really high ceilings. which is cool. It really makes it feel open and light. So we don't have any lights on in here, and you can see at the moment the lighting is pretty good. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon in October, so light is really good. Up the top here, you'll see where the rope is attached, and also where these rings are attached here. These are just like lifting straps from Bunnings. They've got like a 2-ton brake capacity, but still we've put 2 there just in case they do wear. We had a scissor lift come in to do some of the other works in here, and we put those up there. Now, of course, the challenge was if you have a scissor lift coming in, something heavy like that is going to pull up your tiles. So we need to work out where that rope was going to go prior to laying any of the tiles. Now, you might think it doesn't really matter where the rope's going to go, but what we wanted, we didn't want to have to store the ropes against the wall, because we know that as soon as you do that, it becomes a little bit less accessible to someone. They're less likely to use it. So what you'll see is we had to calculate this rope is basically the exact right length to just come down here to between our lifting areas. So it means that people can lift or exercise in both of these lifting areas here, and that rope's not going to get in the way. Nice and easy, nice and accessible. We did have to cut that rope off. So here is my tip on how to do that. You basically want to get this stuff, which you'll be used to seeing on the end of ropes. This is a heat shrink used by Sparkies to normally shrink around cabling. You see there are 2 layers of it here. So we got the rope, we fed the heat shrink over the top of it. We heat shrunk that on just with a heat gun. It basically shrinks it down. Then we used a hacksaw to cut through at the length that we wanted that rope to be. Then we put the second piece of heat shrink over once we knew the length that we wanted, and heat shrunk that on. So now we end up with a rope which is the exact right size, which is not laying coiled on the floor, but is just touching the ground, so it's not swinging around all over the place. We have shelves here. So this is 4 separate shelves. Here, shelf units. We just find this is really nice and clean, nice and easy. Again, little labeling that you can hardly see to designate which weights of dumbbells go where, just so people keep everything nice and clean, nice and tidy. We've got this strip of turf here, which is basically just an offcut we had from the main bit. We think it just frames the area really well. So when you walk in, you sort of get this framed by green on both sides. And again, anytime we can bring some green into it. I know it's fake, so it's not nature, but it's as close as we can get. So we have, again, we don't need a huge amount of equipment. We've just got 2 of each kettlebell, basically going up in 4 kilo increments from 8 up to 32. Again, because we program individually, we don't have classes running in here, we don't need 1,000 of everything, which works well for us. Kegs, Atlas stones, the Atlas stones, to keep them in place, we basically sit them on the rubber rims of non-pneumatic tires, so like a very small wheelbarrow tire with a diameter of maybe 200 mil. So they sit on there. This is an extra little thick tile. So we had to ship this in from the eastern states. There's a normal tile sitting on top, but basically below that, this is a 1 by 1 meter rubber tile, which is 50 mil thick. And it means we can drop kegs and stones on there. And we just have one of these, a normal one on top, which is nice and cheap. So if that does wear, we're all good to go there. More plate storage. You see, we don't have all the plates stored in one place. There's some there, there's some here, there's some on the back wall, there's some on this other wall. The idea being wherever people are lifting, they can access those plates nice and easily. Over here, we have a brush for chalk cleanup, and there's a tap outside. All of our clients clean up the chalk after themselves, basically because we set that expectation. Again, more of those orange hooks for parallettes. This is quite cool. So we've used these, I'll show you how this works. So this is basically for use on the prowler. We do a lot of prowler drags or sled drags, obviously pushing from the handles. But what we've also done, I won't actually hook it on, but we've bought a dip belt, which obviously normally comes with a chain, hacksawed the chain off, bought a length of rope, fixed that to the ends of the dip belt, and then up the other end, you've just got a carabiner or a steel clip there, which clips onto that prowler. What this allows us to do, so just the standard sort of Harbinger dip belt, It means that you can do forward or backward walking sled or prowler drags, and you don't have that rope cutting into you. You don't have to hold handles. So if you're programming it as a movement alternative for like an anterior or a posterior chain movement, which we do a fair bit, we use this for a lot of injury rehab, works really well. Pegboard up here, which was a housewarming present from my brother, which is cool, good fun. You'll see this rope that we've got against the wall. We basically use this, obviously a normal rope climb is very much a vertical pulling movement. This allows us to turn it into a horizontal pulling movement, and I can't do it with one hand holding this camera, but you put your feet on the wall and climb hand over hand. So again, it's more of a horizontal pull in as you're climbing up the wall, a good bit of fun. Trap bar storage here, you can see there's another one of those gym buddies that someone's been using there. We supply skipping ropes, all different lengths for different people. These are little cages we use from Officeworks for storing the stuff to clean down the boards, so we can keep these nice and clean. We don't have stuff stuck all over the boards there. Some challenges we faced, obviously the down pipes here right along the prowler track. And what we did at the bottom here is just bought some very sort of solid thick gauge angled steel from Bunnings. And that means that if you're pushing that prowler or sled along here and you hit that, it's not going to break these very long, hard to replace, expensive looking down pipes. You can see door behind me here. What this basically means is if we have people running, they don't have to run through the sort of main area where people are training along one of those 2x3 meter areas. They can go from wherever they're training, let's say they're doing something here near the jerk blocks, they can run straight onto the prowler track and then straight out the door there. It keeps it nice and clean. I think that's getting pretty close to the end. A nice big roller door, which is great, lets in heaps of light, just brings the outside in a little bit. Nice big fans, oscillating fans there to keep things moving. We've got 4, which seems to be more than enough for this space. Rings we have set up here for your muscle ups, etc., and anything done on the high rings. And really, I think that's about it. I'm sure there is other stuff. There's just lots of little things that we've done that in isolation probably don't seem that important or don't seem like they'd make a lot of a difference, but they really do. The overall sort of general feel of this was not to take any shortcuts with anything, because all you've got to do is take 100 tiny little shortcuts and it becomes very obvious very quickly. So it means it costs a little bit more, but it will be more resilient. It will look newer for longer, place for everything, storage space for everything, the layout to track and plot that client journey. So we're really delivering an experience, because in the end, that's what we're selling, it's the experience. All right, that's about it, guys. If you do have any questions on anything else that I've shown you here that I haven't mentioned, that maybe I've glossed over and you're not sure exactly how we did something, please let me know in comments wherever you're watching this, or shoot me an email, of course, dan@rangeofmotion.net.au. If you'd like to drop in and say hi and come and have a look, I'll give you a bit of a tour, please feel free. If you'd like to train here, of course, please feel free, hit me up. But otherwise, guys, thanks for joining me on this tour. Hopefully there's some stuff that some of you can use. You might think of better ways to do stuff. Please let me know if you do. But this is the result of about 15 years of setting up and using facilities like this, testing a lot, failing a lot, and for this stage, and at this time at least, this is our forever home. So thanks for joining me. Send me through your questions. I'll see you later.